Today's adventure takes me to Stateville Prison in Joliet. Okay, I'm not really at the prison. I'm at the prison cemetery. And as you can see behind me is the monument here for the cemetery. Established 1937. Gives some information about it. Monument is not in good shape. Cemetery is over here to my right. And you can see it there in the distance. So we're going to take a tour of that cemetery today. And I'm going to tell you some stories about some of these criminals that are buried in the cemetery. So come join me as we explore Stateville Cemetery. Okay guys, we are entering Stateville Cemetery. So Stateville is a prison that's probably about a half mile from here, which oddly enough has just closed within the last year, I found out. And it was built in the 1920s, and I guess it was rather old, and they're going to tear it down and build a new one. But let's explore this cemetery. ISP Cemetery, Stateville Penitentiary. Established 1937. Henry Horner was governor. And Al Bowen, director of public welfare. And we have the superintendent of prisons. We've got some chaplains under there and everything. Looks like they've paid their debt to society. May God remit their debt to him. So debt paid, everyone. You may move on in the afterlife, but this monument definitely seen better days. Okay, here is the cemetery, Illinois State Penitentiary Cemetery, and the more recent ones are up front. Those are from like the 1960s and 70s, and as you get toward the back, you go back to the 1920s. There's nearly 300 graves here. All of the tombstones are identical. And I'm going to tell you the story about one of the first burials in here. And this happens to be the first time somebody was electrocuted via the electric chair in Illinois. And it was actually 3 men on the same day, all were electrocuted. And that is Claude Clark, John Brown, Dominic Brizzetti. And what they did is they murdered a Waukegan farmer in May of 1928 while they tried to rob him. And we can see this goes back, and you can't really read much here. That says 1940 there, but a lot of these you can't read very well. So on December 12th, 1928, a swift trial, because they murdered the Waukegan farmer in May of 1928. On December 12th, 1928, all 3 of these men died in the electric chair. First time it was ever used in Illinois' history. And they are buried right here in this cemetery. It's hard to find their exact location, however, because a lot of these simple tombstones markers are really worn off and they're hard to see. You can see that many of these are hard to read. This one we happen to be able to read it. William Griffin, 1957 when he passed away. Several 1957, James Ford. Quite a few. So another story I have here of this cemetery is that of Leo Jordan. Leo Jordan, not a nice guy. He was also executed in this prison. And why, you ask? Well, he murdered a 5-year-old child, unfortunately, named Warren Paul Schneider. Warren was the youngest of 4 children, and he was allowed to go to the corner of his block on lunchtime to visit the student crossing guard. So lunchtime came, he went to the end of his block, visited with the student crossing guard, and then lunchtime's over, student crossing guard, all the kids went back into school. Young Warren was still there on the corner. I imagine he was turning around, walked back to his house, when a man driving by saw young Warren talking to a tall man, and that was the last time anyone saw of Warren. And there was, of course, an investigation. They found young Warren's body, and they ended up finding Leo Jordan and convicting him of murdering little Warren. And Leo met his fate in the electric chair as well, as he should. As he should. Okay, guys, another story for you. Here we have the grave of Taft Cannon, 1910 to 1958. Now, another not so very nice guy here. In April of 1957, he shot and killed his wife in a drunken rage in front of their 6 children and his wife, whose name was Ruth, her mother, in front of her mother. Taft did die in prison in 1958. Obviously, this affected the whole family. It affected the kids greatly, even as they became adults. And in 1958, he did die in prison. Either he committed suicide or was murdered. Not sure on the details of death there, but there's the grave of Taft Cannon. You know, like all these 300 men in here, not so good people. Not so good people at all. And died in prison either by execution, natural causes, or murder. And here they currently lay in state. Okay, here's something interesting. I saw these little things in here, and these are actually, it looks like these are actually markers. George Carney, 19 something to 1974. So I guess at some point they gave up on the concrete tombstones. Robert Johnson, 1924 to 1974. So this is even bigger than I thought, because at some point they gave up on these and they went to these. Let me see if I can find the first one here. These smaller ones that are in the ground. I'm surprised we could see it. Thomas Earl Chase, 1914 to 1970. And it looks also like the burials weren't quite as good, because these are sunken a bit. I mean, you could see like the row here is sunk down a bit, whereas the older ones are not. So that is very interesting as well. Here's some of the later ones from 1970, still very hard to read. Jablonski is all it says on here, 1909, 1970, no first name. Very interesting. Interesting cemetery. All right, so what has happened? This Stateville Prison has been closed down. It's a very old dated prison, over 100 years old, and they've elected to move the prisoners out, and they're going to tear down the prison and rebuild it, build a new prison there. Now, Stateville replaced the old Joliet prison, which you may remember from movies such as Blues Brothers and TV shows such as Prison Break. And that prison does still give tours And that prison closed down in the 1990s. And I don't know if you could see in the distance is Stateville Prison. Now there's some trails around here. It's got me curious. Why are these trails here? What purpose do they serve? So I'm going to walk down this trail a little bit. And with the old Joliet prison, I encourage people, if you live in the area, it is worth the tour. It is an interesting prison, and that one does have a cemetery as well. However, that cemetery was pretty crude, and when they buried somebody, they just put a wooden cross, and they didn't keep good records. And of course, all the wooden crosses are gone, and that cemetery is now just a plot of land with really nothing there. What do we have over here? So there was a guy out here cutting the cemetery when I first pulled up. And he obviously didn't have a truck. So it's like, where, that guy must live in a house somewhere near here. Here's a concrete wall. This is a fresh stake. So I'm not sure what that's about. But there is definitely a wall here. There must have been a structure here of some kind. I don't know. Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining me today on this adventure to the Stateville Cemetery. I was going to walk down here a little bit, but it's getting pretty hot out here. It's in excess of 90 degrees right now, so I think I'm just going to cut the video right here. Thank you again. Hope you enjoyed my stories, and as always, until next time, keep exploring. All right, so as I was walking back, I came across this area, and I saw these pink flags in the ground, and GPRS, so it's ground penetrating radar, I believe. Yeah, so they're doing some ground penetrating radar in here. I don't know if they believe there's bodies here or what, but there's flags in the ground, and this is also near a cistern of some sort or something. It's not very deep. You can see in there, it's not deep at all. But I thought that was very interesting. Why that would be out here, I don't know.